morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Hello, hello, hello. It is a beautiful day out here in the desert. I am just loving it out here. Oh, my goodness. All righty. So it looks like the Democrats will hold the Senate. The battle continues for the House. I know it's not supposed to be about politics, but I'm kind of excited about this, so I thought I would share. Anyways, welcome to Tuesday Takes. Now, last week we went over Twitter tweets. This week it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to kind of change the format of the show. It's still going to be called Tuesday Takes, and we're going to have our takes on basically literary things. So, to welcoming our host of the show, Luke Evans. How are you doing, Luke?
I am on my first cup of coffee, as you know, because our lovely host had to wake my ass up about 20 minutes ago to get on the show because I almost overslept and I wasn't almost here. Yay!
Now, could you explain to the audience why you slept?
I have been hosting 16-hour rooms on Twitter Spaces for NaNoWriMo.
And explain what that is, because I don't even know what that is.
Oh, no, I got you, boo. Okay, so NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, right? So, a bunch of writers decide to torture themselves collectively for 1 month and try to write 50,000 words in a 30-day period. I don't do it every year, but this is the first year where I actually learned how to write a rough draft, and I learned how to write a rough draft because of NaNoWriMo. So what I did is I just stopped thinking about my grammar and ending sentences with prepositions and using passive voice and overusing words and all this good shit, right? And I just vomited the words onto the page, and I'm up to 27,000 words on my rough draft of Insomnia, which is the second book in the RimWorld trilogy series. I need more coffee. I know I sound dead, but it's okay. But you don't have to write 50,000 words. You can just challenge yourself to write every day. That's what I do for myself. What I've done in the past years, I just tell myself that if I write more than 0 words a day, then I won Nano, and that's what I tell myself. You can also decide not to do the NaNoWriMo challenge and set your goal at 50,000. You can set it at whatever thing that you want. It just won't mean that you won Nano, is what that says. But you can win Nano in different ways, which is really cool. And I know I'm talking about this a lot, but it's because I'm super passionate about it.
Now,
and
is it an actual competition where you submit your work?
No. So this is just it's all about personal accountability. So what you do is you just write your words. Let's say that you write 200 words during a 20-minute sprint, which is the rooms that I'm holding. I'm doing 20-minute writing sprint rooms. So it's 20 minutes we write, and then 20 minutes we talk, 20 minutes we write. And we all just do that together collectively as writers on Twitter, and it makes me so happy. So anyway, after a 20-minute writing sprint, let's say you wrote 174 words. I know, weird, right? You go onto the Nano website and you update your word count there. You just type in 174, and it keeps track of it for you. It shows you a chart. It shows you your overall progress. It shows you your daily progress. And you get little badges and shit too. That way, you get those dopamine receptors lighting up. So after you write your first 1,667 words, you get a badge from Nano. It's hey bitch, you just wrote a flat 1,667 words, go you. And then when you write your first 5,000, you get another badge. It's hey bitch, you did 5,000. You're a writer, and it does that. And it just, it's all the happy chemicals. It kind of reminds me of my exercise video when you're doing a walk it off or something, and it's you just completed your first mile, and I'm okay, I'll stop. Please go ahead. I'm waking up.
Oh no, that's great. That's great. So there is an actual website that you can actually go in and type in your amounts, and basically it's going on the word of the people, right? There's no, okay. So that's kind of cool. And they give you the badges. Yeah, it sounds like it would be a lot of fun. It's almost like playing a video game, but you're doing all the writing, you're writing the game. So it's kind of cool. I definitely would have to, definitely next year, I'm going to, it's the whole month of November.
Yeah, the whole month of November. They also have Camp NaNoWriMo that happens in April. And if you want to dip your toes in the water, I am happy to be your buddy for that.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll give that a try. Yeah, no, it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, because I know when I put myself into writing mode, I can knock out a shit ton of words. And something like this would actually keep me in the writing mode to where I could probably knock out, I could easily knock a book out in 1 month, so yeah. And you said you're up to 27,000 words, right? You said you're already up to 27,000. Okay. And it's 50,000 is what your goal is supposed to be. Well, it's only the 15th. So you're already over halfway there.
Yep. I try to stay ahead of schedule this time because usually I'm behind or and I have to play catch up every day. But if you can push yourself to get ahead of the schedule or something, it kind of, for me, it relieves some of my pressure to where I'm like, okay, well, I'm already ahead. So if I have a short day where I only write 500 words or 50 words or something like that, and that's my nano update, then that's fine because I'm 3,000 words ahead of schedule or some shit. So but it also helps to not think about following the schedule and just telling yourself, today I need to write at least 1 word. And it establishes good habits that last long after November. That's what happened when I finished the rough draft of Lucid a couple of nanos back. And after I finished that, I continued to write every single day. I wasn't writing 5,000 words a day or anything crazy, but I wrote every single day for the next 2 months until the book was finished. It's a great way to build momentum. And this really is turning into a fucking writing channel. So this is what we're doing now because that's what I'm passionate about. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I love it. Well, like you and I were discussing and all that, when I get in the moment formulated the way I want it, all right, there's algorithms, and I'm doing 1 hour shows. I'm not going back and breaking it into little segments and stuff like that. And I even got a survey asking about, what I think about things and stuff like that. Obviously, the fear of Elon Musk creating a content creator friendly format has YouTube a little scared, which obviously I can understand why. But asking, hey, what can we do to help you? And me, it was create an algorithm for people to do long shows like me, because for me to get into the algorithm, if I'm going to do 1 hour shows, I got to put out about 15 of them a week. Okay. So, I mean, that's 3 shows, 5 days a week. So right now, based upon the current algorithm, my goal is to eventually have 3 shows a day. Okay. And I want to have multiple writing shows, multiple spiritual shows, multiple political shows, multiple philosophical shows, and stoic shows. So those are the things that I want to have. I want to have a couple fun shows on there, which, Tuesday Takes is going to become a writing show. I can still do Tuesday Tweets, which was my initial idea that I was going to do with Ossia. But Ossia, for those that don't know, she's at Paris of Prairie, Ossia Hussein on Twitter. And she's got a nice gig going now with WKPN out of Chicago, where she does a radio show called The Uninvited, which I've been on once already now, talking about my book, and huh?
I said, I think I've heard of The Uninvited. I've seen it around Twitter, I think. Does she ever open a space? Because I feel like there was a space.
Yeah, she just had a space today with Mike Evans in there, the former CEO of Grubhub. Yeah, and I got to come up and talk to Mike Evans today.
That's badass.
She's had Scott Santons in there. That's how I got connected to Scott Santons. Andrew Yang was in there for an hour. I was on there with Andrew Yang.
That's where I
So
heard it. Yes,
yeah,
because you were talking
yeah,
about your Andrew Yang conversation. Yep.
yes, yes. So she's bringing in some big names. She's friends with Joe Walsh, who was ran for president against Trump, I think in 16. He's I think he was a Florida congressperson, a senator, maybe. I can't remember. But I'm now connected to Joe Walsh, not the musician Joe Walsh, the politician Joe Walsh. But
All got connections.
but it's nice to have, because as I try to get politically more involved and become more political, that's going to help me out tremendously to have these, connect ups, and not that I have Andrew Yang's personal number, Ossia and Bryce do. So, and Ariel. So there is, and I'm really good friends with those three. I mean, my God, the three of us have been friends for probably 2 years on Spaces since it started, so we're growing together on different levels, going different ways. I'm the author that wrote a book that's political. Ariel is UBI. I mean, he's been with all the Yang Gang things and stuff like that. Asia, she's been a marketer and is one hell of a marketer. And she's got all these contacts that she's been reaching out to and making contact with some big names. And Bryce is just a stoic, and he brings a whole new level of thinking. So, again, these are some good things.
I am super excited to hear more about what that Stoic show is going to be about. Like when it actually pops up, it's just that, like, I know you and I have had conversations, so we're not going to spoil it for anybody in the audience at all, but it's not what you think. Because I had some of the same questions that some of you might have. And I actually asked Paul about this because insider information, what's up? And Stoic is actually a really interesting concept. So when Paul starts his Stoic show, you definitely want to go and check that out, because it's not what you think, and it's got a lot of really interesting concepts in there. I also wanted to say, Paul, I love how passionate you are about politics, and I know that's really where like a lot of your passion's going to shine through, like when you start up these political shows and stuff like that on here. So I appreciate you allowing me to explore my passions with writing, even though you already have another writing show. I felt so weird about it, but this is what I love. So
see, writing is also part of my passion. I mean, my God, I'm now a published author. I mean, you go back a decade, never in a million years would have said that I would have been someone to write a book. And now I've written a book. I'm a published author. And now I've got multiple books going. I mean, I love writing, and I haven't been able to dive back into it because I'm getting in the moment going, But you brought up the Stoicism. For those that are interested in becoming Stoic and learning the philosophy on Stoicism, again, another book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Check it out. This is your step into Stoicism. What Plato considered to be the perfect philosopher is what Marcus Aurelius is. So, but yeah, when I pop that Stoicism space up, it's going to be awesome. Van had some things going on, so we're delayed by a few weeks, but the name of that show is going to be called Becoming Stoic. So, yeah, so that's going to be, and Thursday I have a special interview, an exclusive interview with Sergeant Nobody, that wrote a book. He's an author, and again goes into the political realm like I have with writing. And he's going to be a special guest on Thursday. So that's going to be a exclusive interview with him and his book, and helping him get promoted, and getting his ideas out there and what he's all about. But no, this whole nano, what's it called again? Say it again.
NaNoWriMo. You can also call it NaNoWriMo. It just takes the first few letters from National Novel Writing Month and mashes them together. So it's a really fun word. It's NaNoWriMo, and it's Yeah. So that's why I was late. That's why I didn't do any research for the Tuesday Take Show at all. And I'm just not Nano is not the month. Nano is not the month for me to make any commitments to anything except writing. And I've had to learn that the hard way this go. Like I thought it would be fine, but no, it is not. It is not. I write for 16 hours and I pass out. I write for 16 hours, do a little bit of real estate work at the end of those 16 hours for my job, and then I pass out and hopefully get like 5 or 6 hours of sleep when my usual is 12 because I have hypersomnia. So and then wake immediately back up and start up another space before I've even had coffee. So that has been my schedule for all month.
Wow,
but I got so much fun.
You're doing exceptionally well. I mean, I commend you. You're taking on a lot and you're getting things done. And hey, you made the show today. What can I say?
After you called me a million times, like, bitch, wake up. I'm like, oh my God. This takes me back when my sister used to do that shit. She'd call me like 20 times in a row to wake my ass up because like we always work together. This is just what we do, like my entire life. And she would have to do the same thing to me like way back when I had 9 to 5s, because I've never had a solid sleep schedule. It's just never been that way. That's just how my body works.
I woke up at 5:30 this morning. Took me a little while to actually get up and get moving. I come out at 6:30 and I get on my phone and there's Luke Evans in a space. And I'm just like, holy shit. She has fucking been up all fucking night. Oh my God. I go, so I go to myself, I go, all right, let me get the pup outside, take my pup for a walk. And then I'm going to come back in and I am going to reiterate with Luke that we do have a show today. Make sure you get some sleep. So I come back in, I look for Luke and Luke is nowhere to be found. And I'm like, all right, thank God. That means Luke is asleep. Luke is asleep. All right. So in 7 hours, I need to call Luke. So that's what I got.
7 hours of sleep. I got 7 hours of sleep. Go me. I'm so proud of me.
Yes. I gave you 7 hours.
Thank you.
Well, but then you fell asleep the first time I talked to you for another hour. So you got 8 hours.
That's more than I've had all month. I'm not even, no, because I took a break. I took a break from spaces and everything. One day, I think it was like the 10th was the day that I did that. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing Twitter spaces or anything. I'm going to like write like 200 words and update Nano. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm just going to chill out, watch Netflix or something and relax. So I only took one break this entire Nano. I got here on time for the first show though, and I've always been on time for every single one of your other shows. Nano's just wild. I swear, it's hard.
You have been doing quite a few shows with me lately and all that. You've been on the Vellum a few times. You've been on this. You've been on when Cornelia's been on. When Cornelia still had the Vellum and all that, you came on there. So you've been on a lot of shows lately and all that. You've been on here almost twice a week now for the last 3 weeks. So
and yes. I enjoy it. That's why I really enjoy coming on and speaking to everyone, whether it's writing or lore. I think is something that we talked about for like 2 weeks for the show that's now defunct, but we talked about like vampire lore and how we twist shit and everything. Like, I love talking to you guys. Like, you never know where the conversation's going to go. And that's part of the reason why I love doing these shows with you guys.
Well, let's go with some book talk then. Let's do our takes on that.
That works for me. You know, books I'm game.
To movies, to books. Which do you like better, the book or the movie? And anything that you've read that you've also seen on the big screen that you think one is better than the other?
Hmm. You know, it's a toughie for me because I haven't read as much as I'd like to, unfortunately. I know that sounds horrible, like the writer doesn't read. Um, which I'm getting into again. I've read quite a few books, but none of them that I've read has really turned into movies except for like Twilight. And
Well, what's your thoughts on Twilight as a book versus a movie?
I loved Twilight when I first read it. I was young. I was reading through it. Like I was like, "Oh, this is such a sweet love story. This is so great." And then when I got older, I started hearing what other people were saying about it. Like, that's a really toxic relationship. But like, I didn't have a baseline anyway because I was young. So when they start talking about like how toxic the relationship is, where basically Edward like gets angry and Jacob gets angry with her and Jacob like forcibly kisses her and like all sorts of shit. Like I'm like, oh, that is creepy. Not to mention the stalking. Edward, come on, honey. Like you don't have to be in her room while she's sleeping. That's you just broke
Creepy.
in. Consent, my friend. But as far as books to movies, I feel like the movies did a really good job of translating the books onto the page, onto the screen. One part that I really liked that everyone talks about is the transition sequence in New Moon. I think it's New Moon, where Edward has left Bella, and there's 4 chapters in New Moon where it's like October, November, December, January, something like that, and it's just that word on each page, and they're all blank. And then the story picks up again. So like we're reading through it, we're going like, are we missing pages? November, December, January, whatever. And it's because she's just time has stopped for her or whatever, which also is toxic, but it was done really well there because it showed like the passage of time there. And on the screen, they did the same thing where she was just sitting in her room and like it would like pan away from the window and then back to the window. And it would show like, the leaves falling and people gathering up the leaves and like it getting colder. The leaves are off the trees. It kind of showed the transition of time really well there to show that several months had passed. And I thought that was done really well.
Okay. Now, I know that young people think those things, whereas when you get older, when we go like, that's misogynistic, that's creepy, that's blah, 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 where young people seem to think that's how it is. That's romantic. That's cute. So, do you think that maybe Twilight wasn't written for adults? It was written for teenagers?
Oh, absolutely. It's a young adult series for
Okay.
sure. And we see, I'm noticing a change now in young adult, thankfully, where that they aren't perpetuating those toxic relationships anymore and framing them in a light where it's like, oh, this is something you should aspire toward. They're really using books as a medium to like teach young adults that this is icky, and if someone treats you like this, run. And
Yes.
this is yes, and this is a healthy relationship, and this is the one that you should aspire toward. But Twilight didn't quite do that. Twilight showed you that, like, as much as as I enjoyed the transition sequence and the creativity for the passage of time when she was depressed,
Mhm.
where it was like time stopped. I thought that was creative, and I like it for that. But I don't like it that she shut down because her boyfriend that she only knew for like a year. I think it was only a year in Twilight that they knew each other. It was like a school year. He left, and then she just shut down. She was done. She was like, oh, my life is over because a guy doesn't like me. And I was like, that's so unhealthy. Like, you are so teaching children right now that this is the thing. And then like she started like doing dangerous shit so that like she could hallucinate Edward, because like she heard Edward's voice in her head whenever she did something dangerous, where he was like, don't do that, you're going to get hurt or whatever. So like she kept like doing really dangerous, risk-taking behaviors in order to see Edward. And I was like, what is this teaching kids? Like, I enjoyed it when I read it because it didn't have a baseline. But in retrospect, with what I know now, I'm like, this is just fucked up.
Yes, yes. No, see, I have never read the Twilight Saga. I think I saw the first two, and the first one was okay. So I thought I'd give the second one a chance, and it just didn't do anything for me. And I like werewolves and vampires and all of that good stuff. I just didn't find it that entertaining, I guess. Again, there was a lot of very corrosive writing in there that I didn't care for. Kind of like the Vampire Diaries. Not that I have read any of it, but Vampire Diaries, I kind of got, like, I mean, it started out good, and then it kind of, again, it was too teenagey for me, I guess. Where the originals that spun off from the Vampire Diaries, I loved the originals. So, that was awesome. But in relation to book to movie, I would say, now this is going to go back, I'd say probably one of the best adaptations that I found was like Conan by Robert Jordan. And even though it wasn't, the language of the characters wasn't really portrayed that well in the movie, but the visual aspects that's portrayed in the book was done very well. So the whole growing up, being enslaved, and becoming who Conan the Barbarian became, I think it was done very, very well, theatrically.
So I haven't read the book or watched the movie of Conan. So can you you just told me that it's about Conan the Barbarian. I don't know much about that piece of history. So do you want to maybe tell other people who's probably
there was a war going on. He was a kid. His parents or mother was killed. I can't remember if it was one or both. Now, again, I was young when I first watched it and everything, and then watched it, of course, some years later. I probably haven't seen it for probably 20 years. But basically, his parents were killed, and then he was enslaved by the enemy, and worked as a slave. The one scene that sticks with me, there's this big wheel that they tie people on, and they got to push it to grind things and stuff like that. And then they keep showing all the other people on the wheel dying and stuff, and yet he's taking beatings and stuff like that, and he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing from a young man from a very young, basically a child, to a man. This is what he went through, and then he finally rebelled and started killing people, and he ended up becoming, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. I think Red Sonja came from that, a woman warrior. And I mean, they kind of ran it out. But if you read the very first book and you watch the theatrical version of the first book, it's well done. After that, it just kind of, but very well done, I think.
Was this based on true events at all? Or like, was Conan an actual person, or is this fictional, like pure fiction?
I think it's pure fiction.
Got it.
I don't think it was based on anything real. I think it was pure fiction. But I see that
T-Pog missed a history lesson.
Yeah, he probably knows more about the actual history of it and what it's based on. Again, this is many, many years ago that I read and watched it, and again, reading it, it was just like very, very descriptive. The whole scenery and the details of the beatings and stuff like that. The book was far more detailed than the movie. But as far as, again, for its time and how they did it, they did an excellent job portraying, the atmosphere. So
I think that a great way for writers to get their readers to connect with their main character is to start off with, like, who they were as a child, if there are some plot points back there that ties into it for real, because who doesn't connect with a child? You know what I mean? Like, you immediately want to protect children if you're not a sociopath when you start reading about a character. So if you read about a character that's like, and start from the beginning where they're a child or something, and you grow up with them, I feel like that's a really ingenious way of getting readers to connect with the character, because we know where they came from. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. T-Paul, was that Arnie's debut movie? I think that was Arnold Schwarzenegger's debut movie, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger played Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Back when he wasn't the governor.
Yeah, way before he was the governor. But yeah, no.
I'll have to check that out. I'll have to watch it. You brought up Vampire Diaries at one point as well. I've actually read the first book in the Vampire Diaries series, and then I watched some. Well, I read the book after I started watching the series, because I was obsessed with, Ian Somerhalder, Damon Salvador is the character. And that is something that didn't translate well to the screen. They changed so much to make Vampire Diaries into what it is. Like, if you read the book after you've watched like the first or second season, it's completely different. And for the better. It's actually one of those books that I feel like the series made it better than the original content. Okay, go ahead.
Hercules in New York was actually his debut as an actor. I don't think I've seen Hercules in New York, nor heard of Hercules in New York. Now I got to check it out.
That's funny.
I've
never heard of it either.
Yes. Now, another Robert Jordan epic story is the Wheel of Time series, The Dragon Reborn. And Prime has taken on that. Amazon Prime has taken on the Wheel of Time saga. And I watched the first season of it. And I think the book, again, more descriptive and portrays everything a lot better than what the movie does. But the movie, if you haven't read the book, the movie is well done. It's a great movie. A great series. So I highly recommend it. I just he was and still is a heavy bodybuilder, and he was hindered by his accent as an action star. Yes, he was, to begin with. Yes. But I think that's another good story and all that by Robert Jordan. Wheel of Time. It's a good one. Very descriptive, good writing. I don't think the series is as good as the book. And the only movie book series that I can correlate where I think the movie was probably better than the book was The Shining.
And see, I haven't read that and I haven't watched that. And I need to, because everyone's like, oh my God, The Shining. And I'm like, eventually.
It's a thick book. Okay. It's a thick book. I think the movie portrayed it better than what the book does, because I found the book confusing at times. I would have to go back and reread chapters to try to make sense of basically the mental breakdown of Jack, or Johnny, played by Jack Nicholson. Happy birthday, Gostel. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I think the breakdown of Johnny, in the book, they really go into his head, where I think the movie portrayed the breakdown a lot better than what the book did. It was hard to, I guess, keep it in line. Again, I also read it like, God, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, so, and watched it. So nowadays, I haven't read anything, I guess, basically modern when it comes to these stories and stuff that you watch on TV. Again, I'm one of those people that I just got to where I didn't read anymore. I just watched it on TV, yeah.
The most recent book that I've read cover to cover and enjoyed was The Old Love and the New by my friend Alistair Carradec. Like, that's the only book that I've read cover to cover. Like, I have some books up here from my friends, and I got other ones over there from my friends, but I haven't been able to sit down and read them all the way through. And it makes me sad. But like every time I sit down to read, there's always something else. Like, as adults, we get busy and it's just so difficult for us to, but it's easy for us to turn on Netflix. So why is it easier for us to turn on Netflix and not just open a book and sit and read? Because I enjoy it every time I actually get into a book, but I can't get myself to start. Why?
Right. See, when I went back to school in 2008, so from 2008 through 2011, a lot of my reading was either law books or philosophy. I love philosophy. My God, I love philosophy. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Rene Descartes. And a lot of those initial classes that I took, I sold my books back. And I'm like so pissed because it's just like my first 2 semesters, I sold half of my books back. And I was just like, oh my God, I could be adding these to my library and reference things. So from there on out, I kept everything, but it's like my first philosophy class. Meditations and Rene Descartes' First Philosophy, I sold back. So now I've got those. And then Plato's Dialogues, I sold those back. And now I just re-got those again. So I've got some of those some of those books back to where I can reference them. Because like if I'm going to do my Stoic channel and all that, which is basically a reiteration of different philosophical aspects, those are the kind of books that I've read from like 2008 on. It's been all, either philosophy related or legal related. Outside of, I did take a British literature class, and I got 3 huge books over here for my literature class. And I read everything in it. And oh my God, I went through a lot of Shakespeare and stuff like that. And it's just like, wow. And I realized how much I missed reading because it had been, a decade and a half, 2 decades since I read anything, so it felt good to get back into reading. And now, quite frankly, I don't think I would have actually wrote my book if I wouldn't have taken all those classes, because I wouldn't have had the interest like I did politically, because that's what opened my mind up to a lot of things politically, so there you go. Thank you. Paul, being so well read, explains his bloody schisms.
Yes. For me, it's just been something that I've always been interested in, is writing. I was writing short stories in 3rd grade, and I tried writing a children's novel when I was a child myself and finished it, which was nice. I actually finished writing that. And for me, like when I got into becoming a teenager and all that good stuff, it became like an outlet for me, a way for me to like escape reality and put my feelings and thoughts on the page. And it eventually evolved to what it is now. And now I see it as a way for me to shine a light on on not only my issues, but my issues as it correlates to other people. You know, like somebody else is able to connect better with my story, but also feel seen because of the things that I write about. So it's interesting how it's evolved over the decades.
Yes. You know, I highly recommend the Bedford Anthology of World Literature. Okay. The middle period, 100 CE, 1450. World literature, early modern world, 1450 to 1650. I want you to make note of how thick these books are. Make note of how thick these books are. World literature, ancient world beginning through 100 CE. This was one semester of reading. Okay. I mean, I want you to think about this. Okay. Luke, one semester of reading, and we had to write 9 papers. So during the, and this is what you basically, this was your testing. You had to write a paper and to show that you read it. Yes, Paul likes reading thick thingies. There you go. Anyways, what the teacher did during the class, she didn't talk about any of the stories in these books. Nothing in these books. What she went over is how to write. And she would go over like the word that and the word which, explain the differences, how to avoid them, how to use, get rid of like your adverbs and try to get more verbiage in there, verbs, and, you know, sentence structuring, and not write like, instead of having like 12 syllable sentence, 12 syllable sentence, 12 syllable sentence, 12 syllable sentence.
Varied sentence length. Yes.
Okay. That becomes boring. So have a 1-word sentence, have a 6-word sentence, have a 3-word sentence, have a 12-word sentence, have a 4-word sentence. It keeps the mind of the reader going. So I try to do this. Everything that basically all the writing skill I have that you guys have witnessed in my readings and spaces comes from this class and these 3 books. And it's probably the only reason, you know, that the praise you guys give me, which I at first I was just like, no, I'm not that good. No, I'm not that good. You guys are ridiculous and all that. And then the more that I think about it and I look at what I do and where I get my information and why I am, you know, so I guess insistent on making things flow right is from this one class.
And I mean, those books sound interesting because it looks like it's full of of the classics, like short stories and things like that. So I might look into those. Because
Yes.
I used to hold on to my like high school books and middle school books and stuff where they put little stories in there. I didn't turn them in at the end of the school year like we were supposed to. They always went home with me for summer reading. I was like, no, I was the original book thief. It's fine. So I might look into those. That's neat.
Just to let you know, the first aspect is hymns. The next one is love poems, Egyptian love poems, Hebrew scriptures, Greece, the golden age of literature and philosophy, which it goes over Hesiod, Homer, and under Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, Aristotle. So basically, you're getting a lot of philosophy in here, and it just keeps going on. So I mean, a lot of these writings that you get, yes, you're going to need more coffee. A lot of these writings that you get help with everything that you're going to be doing today and from here on out. So highly recommend the Bedford Anthology of World Literature.
I will check those out for sure. I definitely will. And you touched on a lot of really great points grammatically and stylistic wise about this varied sentence length and all of that. Like that's the stuff that like gets me going like yay. Um so like that's the, and the problem with that though, Paul, and I didn't realize that it was a problem for me until this nano is that since we know how we should write to where it's interesting and engaging to the reader, and we know to avoid passive voice, we know to avoid ending sentences with prepositions like, I don't know what you were looking at, or I mean, dialogue's different. You can end sentences with preposition and dialogue. Dialogue's its own fucking beast. But because we know that we're not supposed to end sentences with prepositions, we're not supposed to overuse words, we're not supposed to use like a billion adjectives or a billion adverbs or all of that good stuff. Because we know that and know how to write well, it kind of impedes our progress when we're writing rough drafts. I have had to literally shut off my good writing brain and just be like, no, stream of consciousness only, and just write it all down. Like this thing is going to need so much more work. And some of the things that you find are your weaknesses when you are writing,
Yes.
like some people have problems remembering to engage the five senses when they write. They rely solely on sight is one. That's me. That's one of my weaknesses. Or they forget to describe settings of like where people are hanging out, like what's happening around them, what's the building look like around them, or the room, or where are they forget to include that, or character descriptions. Whatever your weakness is, that tends to like really come through in your rough draft if you just do stream of consciousness writing. And I noticed that, oh shit, I haven't like as I'm writing, I know that I should be describing this, I should be describing that, or whatever, and I'm not doing those things, but I'm stopping myself from doing it so that I can just power through the rough draft. So I know that when I do the revisions at the end of Insomnia's rough draft, that I'm going to have to go back and include descriptions here, take out passive voice here, take out this preposition at the end of the sentence, vary up my sentence length, shorten sentences. Because like another problem that I have is like the 3-line fucking sentence. It's like you've run out of head breath.
Yes. No, it's funny because even with all of this knowledge, okay, when I wrote the Red Herring Effect, my wife edited for me. Okay. She was basically my beta reader and editor. And she'd get to certain points and she'd be like, honey, this page is this page is a sentence. And I would go back and it'd be like, ah, shit. So just to be funny, at one point I put a period in like the center of it. And I go, there you go. It's 2 sentences.
I've had paragraph long sentences before. Don't fucking feel bad. Like that. And it was grammatically correct, but it went on for fucking ever.
I am the ING king. Okay. I am the ING king. I will use ING so much. Again, my wife, when she was going through, and it's just like, okay, ING X, ING X, ING X, ING X. Okay, rewrite this and come back to me when you can make it make sense. What is your point here? What's the point you're trying to get out to me, honey? Well, okay, now that I've reread it, let me reread it completely so I know what the point was I was trying to make. So,
exactly. And
that's actually helped me when I read now. You hear my readings now. I don't make those same mistakes to the depth that I did before. Like you were saying, being conscientious of every sentence you write, it slows you down. But that's why my first drafts read so well, because and if I have to go ahead and write ideas down as I get to them and then come back and re-add and put things in, that's what I do.
I feel you on that. And I used to be the exact same way. And that's why it takes me so long to write one book, because I'm editing as I go. That's what we are doing when we do
Yes.
that. We are editing as we go. When we slow down to think about like the sentence structure and think about, is this passive voice, and think about, am I ending this with a preposition? Am I thinking about word choice? Like, oh, okay, I've already used like this word once already. I used shiny already in this paragraph or this page, so I can't use it again. And we go to like Google to like look up a fucking synonym for shiny or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it when
Yes.
we do that, we slow down the process of just vomiting the words onto the page, getting the story out, because you can't edit a blank page. And I didn't realize this advice fell on deaf ears for so many years. I'm a poet and didn't know it. But now it finally clicked when I just let go of everything that I knew, and everything that I knew that my first draft needed to be. Let go of all of it and just started typing. Like, okay, I know I used glimmer like 3 times already, but glimmer again it is. It's fucking fine. Everything's fucking glimmering on this page. I don't give a shit, because I will fix it later. I am just putting the story out. This is what happened. And once I do that and I get to the end of my rough draft, which will be done in like by mid next month at this rate that I'm going, I will have a complete rough draft of Insomnia by mid next month. And when I do that, then I will be able to go back to the beginning and take out all those glimmers or whatever the word it was that I used, and make it pretty. I can make it pretty after I get the bones on the page.
Yes. Well, and that's the trouble I'm running into with Blood Schism is, you know, to submit those first 3 chapters, I had to really go over it with a fine tooth comb. And now that, you know, there's no pressure on me, and again, coming into some spaces, listening to some advice that you gave the other day, and what's her name? I want to say Ashtiana or something like that. Ashatu, yes. Between the advice that the 2 of you gave me, I've gone back through and done more work on it now. And it's just like, oh my God, I missed that. I missed that. I missed that. And I'm doing some changing up on the storyline. And I can later tonight, if you got a writing chat going and High Lord's in there, I'll read chapter 2. Chapter 3, I got to do a lot of fixing on that, because there were some things that was pointed out to me it's not how a woman would think about things. So I have to go back and make it more into how a woman would think.
See, when we come down to writing genders, honestly, the reason why I don't write genders, period. Like, I write people. I don't worry about like what gender anybody is or anything like that. I understand why some people are hyper fixated on, you know, like, oh, you know, like a woman wouldn't think this way. Oh, a man wouldn't think this way or whatever. But think about how we view people in the world.
Right.
Like we don't, those stereotypes that we place on people, we don't do that in real life if we're good people. Like, we don't go like, you know, like a woman, like they're sensitive.
After the show, I'll explain to you, and you'll agree with me on this. I'm sure of it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Awesome. We'll talk about it. T-Paul says Luke writes insomnia while having insomnia and journeys as an insomniac. That checks out. That's fact.
Absolutely. Nailed it.
This is facts, though. Like, where's the lie? What was I going to say? I feel like it was important. It's gone now. Hey, Loey's here. Hey, Loey.
Hey, Loey. Explain now. No, I will explain to you privately.
Oh, love this talk about writing gender VPP. Yes. I I just see them as people, and that's how I write. So like, even though like, even when I was identifying, purely as female, in the
Right.
past, I would write from the male perspective and be like, and I used to worry about it because it'd be like, like, would a man really think this way? Would a man really do this? And I'm like, there are so many different ways to be a man. Like, fuck it. They're
Right.
just going to be who they are, and that's who I'm going to write. And I think
Well,
that applies to every character that we write.
it goes more into the way a man writes versus the way a woman writes. Okay. And a man, when describing like a woman's body, is going to describe it differently than what a woman is going to describe a woman's body. When it comes to sensuality, a man's going to be thinking in a different mode to describe something, where a woman's going to think in a different mode to describe something. So it's more about modes of thinking and how men objectify women. Okay.
I don't think that applies to all men, though. You see what I'm saying? So
True.
you can write a character who doesn't think that way, write a man who doesn't think that way, and that's valid too. So you just have to remember that there's no there's no one right way to write a man. There's no one right way to write a woman. You just write them the way they are.
Right. But there's where the point comes in and all that. Sometimes the way men think that women are supposed to think isn't how women think. See what I'm saying?
I just feel like women are in a hive mind, and neither are men. So I guess, like, the way that I think doesn't really fit any one category. If you put two women in a room together, they're going to have different personalities, different thoughts, and they're going to view like maybe the same person differently.
Right.
If that makes sense. I'm trying to break it down to. We'll talk later.
Yeah,
we'll talk later. This is a more like, writer workshop kind of discussion.
Yeah. And people interact with gender from their own positionality. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. And sometimes that's not a good thing. Sometimes.
I mean, it also depends on whether the character is sexually attracted to the gender that they are describing as well. Like when you said men versus women describing a woman's body, I was thinking, well, if the woman was, attracted to the woman's body, then she might describe it similarly to a heterosexual male, like the way that a heterosexual male would describe a woman's body. So,
well, who was it? Who was it? There was somebody in one of our writing spaces once that read a great story, and the woman was laying there on her back with her breast heaved way up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If a woman's lying on her back, they're not going to be heaved way up into the air. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Okay. Male mentality versus women mentality.
Oh, that's just biologically inaccurate, though. Like that's them not doing their research, not understanding human anatomy.
Right. There's what I was trying to get across and all that.
I see.
And not only does it go to biologically inaccurate, there's also things that are psychologically inaccurate. Okay. So, and that's one of the things that I have to correct in my third chapter. So, but anyways, oh my goodness, it has been an hour. Yay! I say we call it, and next week we will come in long and strong, and we will be more defined in our topic.
Yes.
On what we're going to talk about. So Tuesday takes. My take is that the movies are usually never as good as the book.
And mine is I loved what Vampire Diaries did on screen more than I love what the writer did in the book. That's mine. But for the most part, when translating books to media for the visual media always goes fucking wrong. They always leave something out. It's messed up. But in the case of the Vampire Diaries, they changed it completely from the source material, and I was there for it. So that was like the one thing that I really enjoyed. Yes, we will be more structured in the next show. This show wasn't structured because of me, because like I was so wrapped up in writing the rough draft of Insomnia and hosting spaces and all this good shit that I didn't do any fucking research. I didn't do shit. So this was all on me. This was my bad, boo-boos. But next week we will have a defined topic. It's going to be writing related because fuck it, let's have like 60 fucking writing shows. I don't give a shit. And I look forward to talking to you guys. Maybe I'll talk about character development or character arcs or something. It'll be really neat. T-Paw sitting over there like, that's my show. I'm sorry, T-Paw, I love you. He didn't say that. I'm just putting words in his mouth.
And Loie, thank you for coming in. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you hang out with us more often and come back into the writing sprints with us. Miss you. And Loie, you're gonna have to come on one of my shows. You just got to come on my show, dear. Love you. Bye-bye.
Oh my God, yes. He can come on mine. I love Loie. Yes. Loie's voice, the way Loie talks, the way Loie does shit. Yes.
All right. Well, same time next week, same bat channel, same bat time. Remember, everyone, be happy, be kind, and may good things come your way. Thank you.